Okay, welcome to seminar number 2 for the class 287, section 1 and 10. My name is Jeremy Kemp, and we have Lori Bell here as well. And Lori is involved in another class, I think starting in less than an hour. So Lori might be stepping out of the course, the Illuminate session during that period. And let me go ahead and get into this. I apologize for the Illuminate server, which had to be restarted, and I see that Trina just entered too. So how you doing, Trina? I actually have 2 microphones open on this session, so if you want to chime in and talk, you're more than welcome to, as long as you have a headset. So what is Web 3.0? I think we talk about this a lot, and we bring it out quite a bit. Web 2.0 is pretty well understood. I think folks know Tim O'Reilly coined that term, and I have a link in the readings about that. But what is Web 3.0? So let me give you 3 or 4 different ways to look at that, and then the session tonight is really in 2 parts. I'm going to give you some content, do a little bitty miniature lecture here, and then talk about the logistics for the course as well, because I know that's this split course like this, the logistics tend to be kind of hairy. So I want to make sure that everybody gets a chance to understand, what's required of them moving forward, and some dates. And Lori and I teach pretty similarly. There's only a few small differences, but I'll go over those. So first off, I want to give you an audio link, and don't go ahead and start that link until I tell you. There's a URL there at the bottom. Let me get that link for you, and when I post it, we can go ahead and listen to it together. It's about 3 minutes, and it will really frame this seminar and talk about the things that I think make up Web 3.0. Okay, so does anybody recognize Marissa Mayer? She's actually pretty famous. She's a spokesperson for one of the largest internet companies in the world, and as you can see, she was born in 1975. She was employee number 20 at the company, actually engineering employee number 20, and the first engineer who was a woman to be hired at Google. She's really a powerhouse in the field. But recently she was transferred to be the Vice President of Location and Local Services. Yeah, me too. So let me put a link in here of a podcast that recently aired talking about Marissa Mayer's change in position at Google, and also a little bit about Web 3.0. So here, I'm going to give you a link, and if you could click on this link and listen to this podcast, it's about 3 or 4 minutes, and then I'll come back in. When you're done, go ahead and raise your hand. So that's the raise hand icon here. When you're done listening to this clip, go ahead and raise your hand, okay? So I'm going to post the link, click on the link, and I'll turn off my mic. Erica and Shannon, go ahead and raise your hand when you finish the audio. Okay, any thoughts on this? What do you think? The people we heard were a professor from the City University of New York, and a reporter from the Mashable website, and the lead podcaster for the TWiT network, This Week in Tech, Leo Laporte, and also we heard Robert Scoble, who's actually an alumni of San Jose State, and he's a very popular blogger that started with Microsoft. So I'm curious what you all thought. Diane, go ahead.
Thank you. I actually thought that was a very simplified answer to the question, what is Web 3.0, and that's exactly what I needed. At work, if people ask me what class I'm taking, and I tell them it's a Web 3.0 class, and they say, oh, well, what is that? And I never really had an easy sort of answer to give them. So I love the fact that it was location and mobility plus the search and the social, and it sort of just brought it all together for me.
Right, and I should say there is no defined answer to this question. You search the literature. A few people are talking about Web 3.0. None of them are crystal clear. So I'm giving you a number of different perspectives. Erica, did you raise your hand? Okay, so if we think of Web 3.0 as location-based services, then you have mapping, GIS, Geographic Information Systems, combining with mobile technologies. And this is old, actually. You could get a GPS, unit a long time ago. But the smartphone explosion, the Android, the Apple iPhone, some of the earlier Nokia things, and smartphones were able to let the users share information about their location and information about what they were doing. So right now you know that there's a platform war underway between Android and iPhone and the iOS. Another interesting thing here is that 5 years ago, if you were to say, oh yeah, the company's going to know where you are with your cell phone at all times, people would run screaming for the hills. And I think there's definitely a strong privacy shift here between what users are willing to give up to companies and corporations in order to get things for that data and that information. So privacy shift is a very important part of this whole issue. One example is Facebook Places, where location goes social. So, flip of a switch, 100 million people were able to share their location to their social graph. This is an important buzz term, social graph. This means all of your connections that are visible in a computing network. And if you use Facebook, you know all about this. So this results in data collection, huge amounts of data that these systems are working with. They retrieve it, they analyze it. So from things, what songs are popular, where you are, or where you last bought coffee. All of these things generate huge amounts of data. And that's an important aspect for my concept of Web 3.0. Who of you, of the students, are using any kind of location-based service? Do you have any devices that know where you are when you tell them?
Almost all iPhone apps now ask for your location. There's not Rotten Tomatoes, but things like you just want to see what movie you want to watch, or even like the Google app for iPhone actually tells you you want to give out your location, so when you search, you'll search it specifically where you're at right now. So I think almost all of them are like that.
Yeah, another way to think of it is that your phone, and we'll talk more about this later in the seminar, but your phone is actually a set of sensors, right? It's got an audio sensor, it's got a GPS sensor, it's even got, it knows when your face is next to it sometimes, it knows when other cell phones are close to it. It has a movement sensor, so it knows what its position is. Some of the phones have compasses. So think of it like, or cameras, there's a visual sensor. So these are little sensing devices that connect you to the internet. You start thinking about it that way, a clearer picture comes into view of what Web 3.0 is. It's a very large set of data, connectivity with sensors, and internet connectivity. So that's one perspective, location. Talked about Facebook Places just now, and you can see on the device on the left, and it also works on Android and BlackBerry, I believe, too. You can see there in the middle, there's an icon for Places. Foursquare, fun game, similar to a GoWalla. You're using Foursquare Trina, what, are you mayor of any locations in Foursquare? And how many badges do you have?
I know I'm mayor of like 10 different places, I think 10. I have several badges, but I'm not sure what any of them are right offhand.
Yeah, my favorite is the oversharing. If you share more than, you check in more than 10 times. So Foursquare lets you go to a location that's already been predetermined. So for instance, the local Starbucks, that's pretty typical. You go to Starbucks and you tell it, I'm in Starbucks, and you check in. Very simple interaction with the cell phone. And the cell phone uploads that tag, that little check-in from you, and puts it onto the website. And then you know who else has checked in there, you know how often you've checked in, and you know other locations around there. So the kinds of information, okay, Lori, thank you very much. The kinds of information they're gathering is just, it's a huge amount of data, and it also has a lot of very interesting business potential too. GoWalla becomes a little bit more like a game. So you can get score, and you can see stamps and pins. So it's a little bit, it's like Facebook, but it gets a little bit more game-like. Google Places, I haven't played GoWalla. Well, I've played both of them, but I'm not playing them right now. GoWalla, when I first started using it, it was about 18 months ago, I think. Didn't really have much functionality, so I knew what Foursquare was, and I was able to play around with it and add some locations and be a mayor of a location. So it was fun. It was interesting. Diane, do you do any of these location-based activities, social activities?
No, not yet. I have, my nephews are very big into it. They are like so into being the mayor of every little place, and so I'm kind of learning from them, and I'm considering it. My nephews are 30s, so they are so into it. I mean, they check in everywhere. So it's something. Right now, I don't have a smartphone, but I'm due for an upgrade, and I'm just kind of waiting and shopping around. So I think I probably will get into it. I kind of like it.
Yeah, I mean, unless it meets a specific need or you enjoy it, don't waste your time. Yeah, take a look at it if it's interesting. Also, we're seeing Google Places. So this is less about cell phone usage and more about just location. Giant databases with information about locations, and Google Places interesting to take a look at. It combines information from lots of different databases and places and puts them all on one page on Google. It's another way of looking at search results. Okay, so then the next definition of Web 3.0 is similar. It's related to what we've been talking about, but this comes from Walt Mossberg and Kara Swisher, All Things D. If you search those names, you'll find them. So they talk about Web 3.0 as thin clients, so in other words, phones, running clean, simple software against cloud-based data and services. So I think this is a similar way to look at the same thing we've already been looking at, but not necessarily location-based. So they're calling Web 3.0 really mobile, all by itself without the location awareness. Another way to look at Web 3.0 that's been talked a lot, that's similar to this, is the application, the apps framework, or the application ecosystem, like the App Store for the iPhone. So you're not running applications on the internet per se, you're running them on your phone, and your phone is interacting with data. So the Apps Store. To look at that as some people would call that Web 3.0. Another one which you guys have already touched on is the idea of overlaying information over your surroundings, virtual and augmented reality. So in virtual reality, straight on, you get World of Warcraft, you get Second Life. Augmented reality, you take a picture, a live picture of what's happening around you, and lay things over it. And a good example of that is the application called LIBR. Or Microsoft has Kinect, which puts a camera over your television and interacts with you. So it takes an image of you and deduces the position of your body and how you're moving, and lets you interact with animated objects, animated agents in the Xbox, in the gaming system. That's a lot of fun. Yeah, Kinect. It used to be called Microsoft Natal, N-A-T-A-L. They changed it. The consumer name is Kinect. So that's interesting. You might want to take a look at that. Another one is this idea really far out there, the idea of projecting onto objects around you and having your cell phone or a camera look at the things that you're projecting, and also allow you to interact with your fingers and with paper around you. It's a really, really great video. I'll get the link for you here. So the idea that you can project information around you and then have your camera see the way that you're interacting with the projection. The final way, another way that I think you could look at Web 3.0 is the idea of the semantic web. So this is, it's not brand new, but it's a little bit like artificial intelligence. Looks like I might have a student calling in. So I'm not going to be able to answer that. I think it might be a student who called in because of the session. Anyway, I'll deal with it by email. Semantic web is a little bit like artificial intelligence. The web applications that you're interacting with are looking at what you're doing in a little bit more intelligent way. So it's analyzing the content and links and transactions between people and computers. It's machines talking to other machines, so large amounts of data being passed back and forth between machines, and they are handling the mechanisms of trade and bureaucracy and what's happening in your daily life. So you can call this an intelligent agent. So all of this is really kind of 20,000-foot level. So let me have you guys interact with let me have you interact with one application so you can see what semantic web is really all about. So this is an application called Wolfram Alpha. Has anyone here worked with that before? I'll tap the URL in just a sec. So let's see if you can figure out if your name indicates your age. So there's a search box here. If you click on that link and put a search box, in the search box you could type proper name and then your name. Let me type out that search. Okay, and what you're seeing it do, if you type that in proper name and then your own name, not my name, you will see the system pulling data from a lot of different places. So the system's actually pulling data from a number of databases and giving you something that looks a little bit, well, in my case, it looks like this. So you can see that when I say Jeremy as a male given name, it's 139th in the US now, and you can see that very popular in this time frame. So I was actually born in 1969, right here, which made it a very rare name at the time. Very, very rare at the time. But it became much, much more common. And most people, a large majority of people named Jeremy were born in the late 70s, early 80s. Is anybody else having some responses from that system based upon their name? Diane, I would think that your name would be quite popular, though, in this system. And I just ran it, and I'm seeing it's running. It's computing, and I'm seeing so anyway, I think the important thing here, it's fun to do this one search. There's actually quite a few really complex searches that you can do here. This system is not like Google. So it's not, you're not searching for Texas and getting all of the links that are, have to do with Texas. It's actually pulling information from, you can see there at the bottom, if you're still in the search screen, source information. So it's pulling primary and background sources and references from dozens of different databases, actually. So it's adding a layer of calculation and sophistication analysis over existing databases. But how's it doing this? I mean, all these databases are not necessarily on hand, right? It's actually calling out for this data. The machines are speaking to each other. This tool is like an agent. This Wolfram Alpha has algorithms and computing power, but it also pulls data from various sources. Another one to look at here is Siri.com. So take a look at, give you that link. This is a similar model. This is artificial, they call it artificial intelligence. It came out of SRI in Palo Alto, and it did military. Originally, it was built to do military analysis and intelligence, similar to what we were seeing with Wolfram Alpha. But what this one does is pull data from things like restaurant reviews and navigation and local mass transit timetables, and puts all of those things back together based on a voice query. So you speak in and say, need a table for two at my favorite restaurant this Thursday. Or I need a table for two at Pizza Hut this Thursday. And so it hears this Thursday, and it knows the current date, and it calculates out what this Thursday means. And it knows what Pizza Hut means, and it knows where the Pizza Huts are around your cell phone. And it communicates with a table reserving service and starts you on that process. They make their money by sending people to businesses, but they do it in a really intelligent way because they're analyzing your voice, pulling data from different places, putting it all together with it's an intelligent package of search responses, and then sending you out to that business or giving you that information. So if I wanted to know where's the nearest place that I can see Waiting for Superman, the movie, then I can tell it that, and it will give me the results based upon my location and the time. So that is the semantic web. So we talked about, let me back up a little bit here, we talked about location-based services. So those very large sets of data with a mobile device. Talked about this thin client and cloud-based data. The Siri that we talked about, that's cloud-based data and services. So again, this is phone-based. And then virtual and augmented reality has this concept of laying information over what you're seeing and letting you interact with more than just the local scene. And then finally, this idea of the semantic web. Really kind of artificial intelligence and intelligence agents. And I showed you Wolfram Alpha, and if you have a cell phone, you can look at Siri, S-I-R-I. So to sum all those things up, what does this have to do with the library? So over time, the initial things for library innovations were going from paper, plain old paper, to the printing press and books. And then going from, classification systems to card catalogs, where you broke out the individual pieces of information, put them in a row, gave people access to them. Then to machine-readable cataloging. Then having PCs that will read CDs and do remote information retrievals in the branch. And then from the idea of online searching all the way to virtual libraries, which is what we're dealing with now, to audio-visual materials, even from the LP to things that are born digital, things that start out digitally, things that don't need to be digitized. So they're not books, they're not paper, they start as digital content. And you can access those things now in the library. And this read-only web, the original Web 1.0, became the social web, and so now you'll see library websites that are doing social interactions with the patrons, with the people coming to the library. So I guess the theme here overall is that we're looking at, this is one aspect, this is probably everything all combined in one, but it's not the entire description. So I would say that Web 3.0 comprises small personal devices that combine sensor data like GPS, camera, voice, with internet intelligence like augmented reality. We looked at Siri, we looked at Wolfram Alpha, to predict our intentions. And this goes back to the sound, the voice file, the sound file that you guys listened to about Marissa Meyer. Google is predicting your intentions and delivering to you contextualized information. So it's not just giving you a set of search results, or it's not just telling you, where the 15 nearest pizza restaurants are. It's working with today's schedule and restaurant reviews and what it knows about your past experience and predicting your intention, where you want to go. So I would say, if you tied it all together, that would be all the faces of Web 3.0. You would have a small personal device that senses, connects with the internet for intelligence, predicts what you want to do and what you want to know, and gives that information to you in context. So that's I don't think that's the entire definition of Web 3.0. I think there are people doing interesting things and calling it 3.0 that have nothing to do with what I've said. So, and I think if you were to ask somebody for a definitive definition, an official definition, that would not be it. But these things together have a very interesting application, and they're very interesting from our perspective, trying to help people with information, trying to help people in libraries do something interesting moving forward. So I want to talk in the next 7 or 8 weeks about these concepts and explore them with you in the discussions, and also have you create collections, both to gather the basic citations and also to put those together and analyze them and put them together in a package. And finally, to present your library paper, the paper ideas that you had, in a presentation in November. So that is Seminar 2. That's what we're going to be doing together. And I'm going to turn off my mic now and ask you if you have any questions or any ideas or how you want to move forward. Yeah, go right ahead.
Okay, so I just had a question about the presentation. You mentioned that it is going to be on the paper that we just did, correct?
Yeah, I believe that's in the syllabus.
Okay, I'm sure I'll read it more in depth, but I just haven't quite gotten there yet. Thanks.
I'm going to talk more about the paper in a sec here. We've gotten through the content, pie in the sky stuff, the more interesting stuff. Now I want to go down into the 5,000 foot level and get down into the logistics of the coming time that we have together. Okay, we did an exercise in the beginning. We did a whiteboard exercise where we talked about the course description. And you guys focused, the 5 things specifically we looked at were user-generated content, which I would call firmly in Web 2.0, but definitely applicable. The challenges to the existing library infrastructure. You wanted case studies. You wanted to talk more about podcasting. You wanted to talk more about APIs. So I'm definitely looking at those moving forward to continue the discussion on those. So the remaining assignments. We have 15 points remaining in the digital collections development. This is in the same teams that you were working in previously. You're going to be in Team 1 and Team 2. Do you guys want to just chat in the text area if you're Team 1 or Team 2, so I get an idea of the composition of the folks that are here today? Okay, great. These are the folks in Team 2, along with their Angel address name. So we have Erica, Trina, and Shannon, and Diane. Oh, yeah, look at that. That makes sense. You guys are pumped up about the second seminar because you're leaders. Okay, so then participation. So each week you interact. I go for 2 posts a week, not per lecture or per section or any of that. 2 posts per week from both the leaders and from the folks who are participating. You completed the Future of Libraries paper. The final presentation content is based upon your paper. You have the ability to revise it based upon Lori's comments, to add to it, and even if you want to, you could scrap it and start from scratch if you want to. But you don't need to create new content than what was presented in the Future of Libraries paper. If you don't have any visuals, I definitely recommend that you spend time, creating, if you can, charts and graphs of things like the timeline and the budget. Shannon, I need a PowerPoint or image files. So I hate to stick to, PowerPoint's stultifying, but the logistics of dealing with other formats is really tough, and the logistics of working with application sharing is likewise a pain. So either a PowerPoint that I can convert to JPEGs or a set of JPEG files that you can give me. And if you have Google, a Google Doc, you should be able to output that as a PPT file. Does that answer the question, Shannon?
Google Site presentations are just a URL that we click through, but during the presentation, so I was just wondering. That's what I usually use. I don't usually use PowerPoint, so.
I'm sure that has an export feature, so I'd really like to have eventually what it becomes is JPEGs. So that means all the transitions are lost and all that. The reason being that you stay in Illuminate, you can move fast, you can focus on the content, and I'll give you moderator status so you can click through back and forwards. You'll be in charge of that. You can draw on the slides if you want to, add other media, or give us a URL for a website, but not to have everybody who's in Illuminate viewing a presentation tool outside of Illuminate. If you are very, very comfortable running that, we can do that. But honestly, I'd really prefer a set of JPEG files or output from PowerPoint. So we have lectures and a live event, a speaker on November the 9th at 6 p.m. Your digital collections are due participants. That's not most of you, but Marie's digital collection is due the 16th, and the curation of digital collection is due the 23rd. We have a Thanksgiving break, and I stopped counting participation on November 30th at noon, and we have paper presentations November the 30th through December the 7th. I use a tool called Doodle, D-O-O-D-L-E, and I will put out a list of 15 or 20 times in that period, a wide variety of times, and have you guys tell me the ones that don't work for you, basically. So if you aren't available at 6 p.m. on a Tuesday night, I don't know what the day of that is, 30th. So if Tuesday night would be the 30th or the 7th, if you're not available 6 p.m. on those nights, that's fine. Just mark it down. You won't have to. I have never, honestly, I've done 100 presentations using this system, and I've never had anybody that wasn't able to get in there with a number of other people too. So you'll be presenting 10 minutes. You only need to come to your own session. You don't need to come to every session. But I would like everyone to have a question, that they can give to the speaker. And I will be sending out the doodle probably a couple of weeks before, so mid-November. And the reason I don't do it, at the beginning of the term is because you don't know what your commitments are. So 2 weeks out probably is a pretty good amount of time for you to know what you're committed to do in that period or not. So this causes a lot of stress for folks, and it really doesn't need to. Again, I've never forced someone to present at a given time. There's no reason to have to do that. And I'll give you, 15 or 20 different options for presenting during that period. Does anybody have any questions about the presentation timeline and the presentation content?
I have a question about the curation of the digital collection, since the wiki was having so many issues for the first people. Are we still doing it on the same wiki kind of format?
Yeah, I was watching that, not so closely, but I was watching it and having great empathy. I think the forum makes sense for the content, the original content for the participants. Marie will be doing the forum, posting your 5 links to the forum. The curators, that's everybody else, I have a LibGuides page created, and it's pretty straightforward. And Shannon, do you know LibGuides? I know a number of people in the class are familiar with LibGuides. Some of you are experts. So you'll all have, oh great. So, oh wonderful. That's right. That's right, I remember that. So I have one set up, and you can see your leaders there in the table. I will be creating accounts and emailing them to everybody in the next few days for you to start working on a curated page. Yeah, and honestly, I should say, I've never used this system, and some of you are experts, so I'm learning right here. Leaders will receive an email. You can visit, all this information will be in the email. You visit libraryschool.campus guides, sign into the admin link, enter your email address, and I will use LIBR 287 for the password. And then you'll edit your account and change your password in the account. So this happens, you all are going to be taking those links out of the forum and arranging them here in the curated collection. Does anybody else have any questions about the collection? Another benefit I'm hoping to get out of the LibGuides is that you'll have something that you can work with in your portfolio. I think it won't be perishable. It'll be around for a while, so you can include it. Okay, discussions work the same way. This is actually wrong. Apologize. Okay, Team 1 will participate in the discussion, and Team 2 will lead the discussion, post questions, and keep the discussion going. If this is correct, does this jive with the first seminar? So you all, Team 2, you all participated but didn't post questions or do summaries and analysis. Is that true? Yeah, sorry about that. My bad. Okay, 2 to 3 posts a week, approximately 5 to 10 sentences long. What was your feeling about your work in the forum, and would you guys like to do anything differently as the leaders moving forward? Okay, discussion for Seminar 2 is worth 15 points for both the leaders and the participants. Okay, this is the same slide as previously. By the Tuesday of each week, make your post as the week's facilitator. So this is the criteria, this is the rubric, and this is the key piece down here for most of you. I think you're all familiar with this process. Okay, so the collections assignment, Team 1, Marie, you're gathering 5 resources of these types, and this is due to the discussion board November the 16th by noon. Then you, Seminar 2 leaders, have the time to post it. Now, one thing to look at is the schedule. I know you guys tweaked the schedule previously concerning the amount of time that you had to do this. You see that November 16th, November 23rd. Marie, did you guys have enough time in the first seminar, and does this look good for your classmates, the 16th to the 23rd?
I'm looking at my calendar right now. I think it took us about a week. One of the things that we had a challenge for us was trying to gather everyone, because they posted it in the wiki that we had. It was kind of confusing at the start. It's a good thing Lorraine actually started it out and arranged it a little bit for us, and then we just started putting things in. But I think a week is fine.
So putting it in the discussion forum for the Team 1, that makes the most sense?
It would be a lot easier for the leaders to collect them instead of going through every single page and trying, sometimes trying to arrange and where it's supposed to go, or finding who's what and whatnot. So easier that way when we put it on the discussion board.
Okay, back to the presentation. The PowerPoint's due November the 30th, and I'll have you post those in the forum, November 30th noon. That's the week before anybody presents. Well, it's the day before anybody presents. Things that you might want to address in the presentation is an inventory. If you're working from a place, an existing place, inventory of your current tech. What's going on in your library, or your information science location, information science? What's going on there now? And performing a needs assessment. What do people need? What did they come to you for? What is missing? And taking a look at some opportunities. You've all done most of this now. Setting priorities, budgets and timelines. Very, very helpful and interesting. These are very good to do in a graphical way if you can. And how do you evaluate what happens, what you've done? So if you want to implement a LibGuide system, how do you evaluate whether it's successful or not? These are all things that are important. Shannon, these things, the presentation is given in Illuminate. Is that what you mean? Yeah, I'll be porting this to YouTube. And it's recorded also, so you can see it's available in Illuminate. It should be available in Illuminate as soon as we finish. Take me a day or two to get it up to YouTube, and probably a week or so to get it transcripted. Now, like I said, we have the guest speaker, Tuesday the 9th. Are you all taking advantage of this Trendy Topics, the extra credit that Lori's made available? There's an LIS career fair. There's a building a virtual library branch, which is basically this is a free conference that you go to and get extra credit to talk about. I think that's the best deal of all.
If we attend CLA, do you know if that would be part of the extra credit?
Lori is handling this. I apologize. So, yeah. If you mean the credits on the times on trendytopics.info, I don't know if those, they might be central. Yeah, I think they may give a number. Oh, sorry about that. I have the recording. I also have the transcript. Let me see how I can incorporate that. So that's what I have for you. It's 7:20, so it's about an hour after we started. I apologize for the late start. And let's discuss a little bit about today's lecture in the forums, in the discussion area. I'll start that up and add some questions, and we'll go from there. So thank you very much. Again, I apologize about the late start, and I think we had a good session. I hope everything's clear. You know, I'm very, very available, so if you want to call me on my cell phone, you're welcome to. Usually the way I do it is I'll start, you know, if you've ever done support, there's escalation, right? It starts with the Help Me forum. That's the first place. Be sure to subscribe to that. Then an email, then telephone me. So there's no reason you shouldn't be able to get a response from me in one of those ways within 24 hours. So I want to be very, very available to you. Usually I can get back within minutes sometimes. And have a great night.